explorers dropped a camera into Mel's Hole and were shocked by the horrors they found. Sinkholes are huge, scary pits that suddenly appear out of nowhere. They form when the ground just collapses from stuff happening underneath. In 2022, explorers stumbled upon an ancient forest hidden deep inside a giant sinkhole in China. What else might be lurking in these dark, deep holes? Let's reveal the horrifying entities lurking below, patiently plotting their next move. In the world around us, many natural things can make us feel afraid, and sinkholes are one of them. The strange thing about sinkholes is that they can show up almost anywhere there is soil. They usually form when underground processes create gaps that cause the ground above to suddenly cave in. It's only natural to wonder what happens after a sinkhole opens and what could be at the very bottom. As the clock struck midnight, she realized the whispers in the dark were not just her imagination. The truth was about to be unveiled, and it promised to shatter everything. Surprisingly, scientists have looked into these questions and made some interesting discoveries at the bottoms of sinkholes. For example, in the year 2022, explorers in China investigated a huge sinkhole called the Giant Karst Sinkhole and found an ancient forest inside it. This sinkhole is more than 100 feet deep and almost as wide as 2 soccer fields. Explorers near a small village discovered it and showed that some areas in China, especially those with certain types of rock, are more likely to have sinkholes of different sizes. This sinkhole was found in a mountainous area and had swallowed up a big part of what used to be the top of a mountain. The fact that a forest could grow at the bottom of such a deep hole is really amazing. It suggests that this sinkhole has been there for a very long time, long before people were around, allowing tall trees and a whole ecosystem to thrive down there. But that's not even the most surprising part. Findings like these help us understand natural processes and how time affects the Earth. Every sinkhole gives us a glimpse into Earth's history and the ever-changing processes below the surface that shape our world. Exploring the Giant Karst Sinkhole gave scientists new insights into how the land is formed and revealed a hidden world of life, showing us that even places that seem unlivable can actually support vibrant ecosystems. There are also stories about sinkholes that blend science with mystery. Take, for instance, the story of Mel's Hole, a supposedly bottomless pit in Washington, which became famous after being mentioned on a radio show. People were so curious that they lowered a camera into the hole, and the image that came back was so strange that it caught attention all around the world. This story shows how sinkholes can spark our imagination and create legends, mixing scientific interest with a bit of the unknown. But that's not all. As researchers and curious explorers keep investigating these mysterious formations, they often end up with more questions than answers. Yet, every discovery brings us a step closer to understanding the complex history of our planet. For many years, people talked about something called Mel's Hole, named after the person who first shared the story. According to what he said, someone found Mel's Hole and decided to lower a camera into it. What they found was surprising: a bright red pipe deep underground. Normally, pipes that are buried are dull colors like white, black, or brown, so finding a red one seemed strange. It made people wonder why anyone would put such a bright, noticeable pipe in a place where no one could see it. Why would someone choose such an unusual color for a hidden underground pipe? It makes you curious about the pipe's purpose. Is there a secret reason for putting it there? This is even more puzzling because Mel's Hole might not even be real, it could just be a folk tale. People call it a bottomless pit, but every hole has an end, right? So, without any solid proof that Mel's Hole actually exists, the strange pipe remains a mystery. Next, we uncover more surprises from beneath the Earth's surface. Let's talk about another mysterious event, when a sinkhole revealed a hidden volcano. In 2018, a giant sinkhole opened up on a farm in New Zealand. It was about 20 meters deep and 200 meters across. Sinkholes can vary in size depending on the conditions around them, but this one was unique because of what was at the bottom, a volcano that had been dormant for 60,000 years. The farmers were safe, but the discovery was a powerful reminder of how unpredictable nature can be. The sinkhole appeared because limestone had been worn away by thousands of years of rainfall, which eventually caused the ground to collapse. Finding a volcano at the bottom shows that nature can still surprise us in big ways. Scientists were excited because studying the volcanic crater gave them new information about the area's geological history, which could help predict future sinkholes. But this wasn't the end of the story. While the scientists were busy studying, the farmers had to deal with the immediate problem. They decided to fence off the sinkhole to keep everyone safe. This shows how people often handle the surprises of nature with a mix of curiosity and caution. Not all sinkholes appear on land, many of them form in bodies of water around the world. A lot of these underwater sinkholes are filled with water, making them accessible only to divers. This was the case with a sinkhole discovered in 2014 in Mexico. Known as Sarcorm, it is located in the Yucatan Peninsula. Local people had always known about it but avoided it because of its dark history. They believed the ancient Mayans used these underwater places for sacrificial offerings to their gods. When divers went about 20 meters down into the sinkhole, they found not just one, but several caverns that showed clear signs of having been used by ancient people. Inside these caverns, the divers discovered many human bones, confirming the stories of sacrificial practices. But the bones they found were not ordinary. Among them were strangely elongated skulls. Unlike the exaggerated tales from adventure movies, these skulls were the result of an ancient tradition where people would shape the skull from a young age. This practice is both fascinating and eerie. We still do not know exactly why the Mayans did this, especially to children, making it a mystery that is both intriguing and unsettling. And if that wasn't strange enough, some of the bones might belong to people who had died of a plague, thrown into the sinkhole to stop the disease from spreading. Now, on a different note, there's another famous underwater sinkhole called the Great Blue Hole in Belize. This sinkhole is not just of interest to scientists but is also a favorite spot for divers who want to test their skills in a unique setting. From above, the Great Blue Hole looks much bluer than the water around it, which makes it stand out and adds to its mystery. It wasn't until 2018 that scientists explored its depths thoroughly. An expedition funded by billionaire Richard Branson aimed to create a detailed three-dimensional map of the sinkholes inside. As the team went down, they saw lots of marine life like sea turtles and big sharks, along with stunning, colorful corals. But this wasn't the most surprising part. At around 90 meters deep, they noticed that the life forms started disappearing. There was a thick layer of hydrogen sulfide that proved deadly for many marine creatures, showing the hidden dangers and mysteries of these amazing natural formations. Let's explore deeper where nature hides its forgotten tales. Almost everything that came close to it was impacted, including a few divers who were found at the deepest point. When the local authorities heard about this, they quickly pulled the divers out. They also found signs that this place used to be a cave system before it collapsed into a sinkhole. It may have even been home to many ancient creatures before it was filled with water. But what made things even worse was the human garbage found in the sinkhole. It was a clear sign that human activity reaches even the most unusual and remote places. Now, let's go back to China to look at another sinkhole, the Yunnan sinkhole, which was explored in 2021. What scientists found there completely changed what we knew about the area. This sinkhole wasn't just a natural wonder. It was full of plants and animals thought to be extinct. For example, a creature last seen in 1893 was discovered alive, showing how life can survive in surprising places. This discovery led scientists to wonder what other rare species might be living in nearby sinkholes. They likely continued their research, driven by the hope of finding more hidden species. It's amazing to think that a sinkhole can act as a safe haven where life thrives, relatively untouched by human activity and global changes. Another fascinating place is the door to hell in Turkmenistan, a fiery pit created by human activity. The story goes that during the Soviet era, an attempt to drill for natural gas caused the ground to collapse, releasing gas into the air. To deal with the danger, the gas was set on fire, with the expectation that it would burn out quickly. However, since the 1980s, the fire has never stopped. This constant blaze has turned the site into a stunning, although unintended, tourist attraction. In Australia, on Trevor Ashby's dairy farm, you can see just how different and widespread sinkholes can be. At first glance, you might not realize the scale and variety of these formations, but they are there, playing a crucial role in shaping the landscape. At first glance, this area looks like any regular dairy farm, but there is something unusual here, a hole in the ground big enough for someone to slip through with their gear. This opening leads to what feels like a bottomless pit. As soon as people found out about this strange hole on the farm, they were excited to explore it. Diving into unknown depths might seem odd to some, but for a group of brave divers, this is exactly the kind of adventure they crave. They travel the world, exploring different sinkholes to find out how they form and what secrets they hold. Even the landowner is excited about the diver's interest. He compares going down into the sinkhole to traveling through space, a comparison that makes sense when you think about the strange and mysterious places these sinkholes reveal. It's like stepping onto a completely different planet. Now, let's head to Louisiana, where there is a giant sinkhole called the Bayou Corn sinkhole, covering 24 acres. This huge hole was created when the wall of an old salt mine collapsed, letting water rush in and change the landscape. At first, everything might seem calm, giving a false sense of safety. But suddenly, the ground opens up, swallowing huge trees in an instant. It's dramatic to watch, and there is a real chance that this sinkhole is still growing, which is a scary thought. But that's not the worst part. Let's move to Kenya, where the East African Great Rift Valley is always changing because the African tectonic plate is shifting. Here, sinkholes appear out of nowhere, especially after heavy rains, swallowing everything, water, soil, and even green plants, leaving people shocked and scared. Even though the sinkholes might be small, their impact is huge. Join us as we dive into more astonishing sinkhole stories. The mystery of Florida's deep hole. Now, let's talk about a special place in Florida known as Deep Hole. Unlike the other sinkholes, this one is not famous for what's inside it, but for who gathers around it, all the alligators. At times, over 200 alligators come together in this watery hole. No one knows for sure why they are attracted to this spot, but it has turned into a curious sight for tourists. Thankfully, they stay at a safe distance from these powerful reptiles. But this isn't the end of the story. Each of these sinkholes has its own unique mysteries and dangers waiting to be uncovered. While the last sinkhole story might have been a bit more lighthearted, this one is not. Picture this: in Chile, in the year 2022, a massive sinkhole suddenly appeared near a mining area, catching everyone by surprise. Local workers were the first to spot it, and this hole was enormous, stretching almost 30 meters across. From above, it looked like a dark, endless pit, which is why people started calling it the Black Hole. The really scary part? If there had been any buildings or people nearby, they could have been swallowed up instantly. Some think the mining activities nearby might have caused the sinkhole, but it could have also been due to natural geological shifts. Next up is the story of a classic car from the year 2020, a year that was already challenging for so many people. Imagine facing all the global troubles that year brought, and then having a sinkhole suddenly open up right in your South Dakota neighborhood. That's exactly what happened, leading to evacuations and causing several homes to tumble into the deep hole. When the area was finally safe, people found a vintage car at the bottom of the sinkhole. This car, treasured by its owner, was lost forever to the depths of the earth, a sad reminder of what was already a tough year. Losing the car, a cherished symbol of better days, added a personal touch of tragedy to the whole incident. And now, we come to the Mexican farm sinkhole. As we've seen in these stories, sinkholes can appear suddenly and without warning, and this one was no different. A family was farming near Puebla, Mexico, when their lives were completely turned upside down. At first, they thought they were feeling the tremors of an earthquake, but it turned out to be something even more destructive, a giant sinkhole opening up right on their land. It measured about 10 meters across and was still growing. This sinkhole became a serious threat to their farm and their safety, showing just how powerful nature can be and how fragile our human efforts are. Officials quickly rushed to block off the area when it became clear that the family had to leave their home to avoid being trapped by the growing hole. In a twist, this frightening event became an unusual attraction. Entrepreneurs were quick to see an opportunity and set up viewing areas, charging visitors to come and see the strange sinkhole. It was a clear example of people turning a crisis into a chance to make money. Moving on to the 7th spot on the list, we go to St. Louis, where a sinkhole opened up in an artificial lake, causing a lot of trouble for both people and animals nearby. Lone Elk Park, known for its limestone lake, eventually fell victim to erosion, leading to a massive sinkhole. When the ground caved in, the lake's contents, from the water to the fish, were sucked into the hole and vanished completely. While not the entire lake disappeared, a big part of it did, raising concerns about the water supply for local wildlife. Moving on, we discover even more wonders hidden deep below. China's strange sinkhole forest. Next, in the sixth spot, we return to China, a country that often deals with sinkholes. In 2022, a particularly deep sinkhole was found. This one was remarkable not just for its depth of 192 meters but also for the vibrant forest growing inside it. Tall trees have adapted in unique ways, stretching and bending their branches toward the little sunlight that reaches the bottom. This discovery, along with the many entry points spotted, has led people to wonder if there are undiscovered species living in this lush, hidden world. Shifting our attention to Florida, which holds the fifth spot, we find a more serious situation. In 2023, a previously stabilized sinkhole reappeared. Originally discovered in 2013, this sinkhole had tragically swallowed a home, taking the life of Jeffrey Bush as he slept. Even though the area was thought to be secure after demolishing the remaining house, the sinkhole reopened, larger and seemingly more dangerous, posing a renewed threat to the community.